Namaskar and welcome to lecture 4 of module 9 of the stress management course. This lecture focuses on coping mechanisms, past experiences, demographic and psychological factors as moderating stress tolerance of individuals. Here is a quick recap which gives a list of the factors which we are going to consider in this presentation. First of all, let us talk about coping strategies. Coping means an effort to bring the homeostasis back. Whenever an individual is confronted with a stressor, the equilibrium of his or her life gets disturbed. When the equilibrium is disturbed, it causes certain challenges for the individual which can manifest themselves in his physical health, work performance, psychological health and social relationships. In order to bring the optimum level of functionality and productivity back, the individual tends to take certain steps which can reduce the perception and experience of stress and make the situation more manageable for them. So, what happens that whatever we do, the actions, the steps, the efforts, whatever we take in order to reduce stress in our life are collectively known as coping strategies. These coping strategies can be divided into different kind of classes which we will discuss in further modules, but for the time being we are taking up coping as a factor influencing the stress tolerance of an individual. So, right now we are not going to study all the classifications and detailing of coping strategies which will definitely be done in later modules, but we will be more focused about how picking up one or the other coping strategy can influence the experience and perception of stress and the way we try to manage it. So, here we have certain coping strategies like problem focused coping, emotion focused coping and social support seeking behavior. Problem focused coping means the act of identifying and resolving issues which are causing problems. So, first of all we have to analyze the environment in which we are in and we try to see that which particular aspect of the environment is creating problem for us. Once we identify that particular part or issue, we try to moderate it, we try to resolve it so that it should cease causing stress to us. It can be done by restructuring of the environment or by simply removing some aspects of it which are supposed to cause stress for individuals. Similarly, the second kind of coping strategies that one can adopt are known as emotion focused coping strategies. According to Penbaker, emotional expression is a valuable tool in processing and coping with the stress. How do we process information about the stressors which are present in our life and how we try to cope with them. So, if we try to manage our emotions in a better way, we try to regulate our emotions more efficiently, we can reduce the experience of stress up to a substantial level, bringing us back to our normal life and to our normal productivity level. This can also help enhancing the well-being of a person and assist in stress management. The third type of coping behavior focuses more on seeking social support. So, if I am not able to do it myself, can I ask others for help? Can I ask others for giving wise counsel to me so that I can take advantage of their experiences, their techniques and manage my life in a better way? Yes, this is the third effective way of coping with the stress. So, what we do, we try to connect with others for emotional solace, practical assistance, and stress relief. See what we are doing. We can ask others to give emotional solace, means if I feel very low, if I feel like crying, there may be someone else upon whom I can count. I can discuss my emotional state with the person, and the person can help me uh, in catharsis, in releasing those pent up emotions, or in analyzing those emotions, or in regulating those emotions. Then I can also ask for practical assistance if I really have so much to do in a limited time. Can I divide my work with others? Can I give it to someone else? Just the way uh, we take help of our house helpers. If we have so many things to do in a limited number of hours, we try to allot some work to others, so so that they can assist us in doing our tasks successfully. And then we can talk to others, we can connect to others experiences in order to have some relief from the stress we are undergoing. You might have heard about cancer societies, means societies of those people who at some time suffered from cancer and successfully overcame that. Now what they do, they form a society and they try to provide emotional solace to those who are now undergoing treatment for cancer, who have many fears and anxieties in their mind regarding cancer and its treatments and its outcomes. So by connecting with others who have experienced similar kind of problems and were successful in dealing with them, can provide us enough stress relief, because it gives us a hope that we can also conquer the situation successfully. Then social connection is another way of social support seeking. For example, if we nurture the social bonds, if we nurture the ties, the emotional ties with others, with significant people around us, we can have a feeling of belongingness and a feeling of support by perceiving that there are people to stand by me whenever I need them. Next is the life experiences. The experiences of past life have a great impact on the stress tolerance of people. Normally it has been found that people who were exposed to a great magnitude of stress in their past life somehow develop a kind of immunity towards stress perception, and later on when they are confronted with stressful situations, they find it easier to cope with them because they have experienced such kind of stress or maybe more stressful situations in their past, and they have dealt with them successfully. So now they have developed certain skills, certain techniques to deal with stressful situations. Moreover, now they have a sense of hopefulness, a sense of optimism that at the end of the day everything will be all right. There has been situations like that earlier also and they were resolved successfully. So again I will be able to do the same thing. On the other hand, people who had suffered from some kind of trauma which resulted in almost a breakdown of individuals emotionally, physically, socially, may have a higher than usual perception of stress whenever they are confronted with any kind of problem. They may perceive it disproportionately intense as compared to its actual intensity, its objective potential to present some harm to the person. So, if there are so many traumatic experiences in the past life, even a small stressor can act as a precipitator for a full blown panic attack. So, basically it is the kind of life experiences, the way the person dealt with them and the kind of outcomes that the person had. All these three factors taken together decides how the person is going to deal with the stressful situations in future, or how he or she will perceive the level of stress in any situation in the future life. You know, repeated exposure to stressors can lead to desensitization and increased stress tolerance. It happens in the same way as we saw that people living near the railway stations quickly get adapted to the loud noise created by engines of trains. Whereas, if we go to railway stations and sit there for some time only, the sound produced by the engines, the loud, the sharp sound produced by them can be very disturbing and distracting for us. We may not want to stay there for a long period of time being exposed to those kind of intense sounds. But those who live there 24 hours, carry out their life near railway stations or near railway tracks, quickly become immune to those kind of sounds. So, if the same stressor comes again and again repeatedly, this is going to make the person immune towards that stressor, leading to decreased perception of stress and increased tolerance towards it. Similarly, we have talked about the traumatic experiences. So, the traumatic experiences which were shattering, which have shattered the self concept of the person, the physical and the mental well being of the person, usually brings the tolerance to a lower level as compared to what it was prior to the experience of that traumatic experience. It was also clear by the fact that many people who are unable to handle such traumatic situations successfully develops post traumatic stress disorder, which is identified by a high amount of stress and anxiety responses in face of even minor stressors once they are faced with some sort of traumatic stress. Then the challenges and adversities of life somehow help in building resilience and increases stress tolerance of people. So, the challenges and adversities of life somehow help building resilience in people towards stress, and they increases the level of tolerance towards stressful situations. If we consider demographic factors, we find age and gender to be important factors in bringing about differences in stress tolerance. However, there is no fixed pattern that can be adopted in all the context and which can suggest that people of a particular age range will be more comfortable dealing with stresses, or there will be somebody belonging to a particular gender, maybe males or females, who are more comfortable and efficient in handling stress. The effect of these demographic variables are largely contextual. So, males can show their stress tolerance in different contexts and females can do in different contexts. Similarly, when you go through different age groups, their stress tolerance appear in different kind of context. For example, children are usually resilient towards a number of things because their emotions are more fleeting than adults. They get into emotional states quickly and then they come out of them also easily. So, they can simply manage to have experiences and then they simply forget about them, or they learn to let them go, but it is not that easy for adults. However, children are more vulnerable to traumatic events. If something traumatic happens to them, it can have a much more strong impact on their mental health as compared to adults. So that is why it is important to keep in mind that demographic factors do not have a definite impact over stress tolerance, rather their impact is largely contextual. It vary from one context to the other, may it be age or gender. Then if I talk about the psychological factors, self-efficacy, a concept proposed by Bandura, is of immense importance. Self-efficacy refers to the belief individuals have in their capacity to overcome challenges. So, the more efficacious I find myself, the more confident and comfortable I will be in entering into various situations which can be potentially stressful for many of us. And if I find myself lacking capacity to deal with those stressful situations successfully, I will try to avoid them. I will prefer not to enter into them. Okay, so self-efficacy is one big factor making differences in stress tolerance. And then the capacity to manage emotions, which is popularly known as emotion regulation mechanism, which is a component of emotional intelligence of people. Managing, identifying one's emotion and then managing it properly. This is a big factor causing differences in the capacity of stress tolerance. So, people who can manage their emotions well can deal with the stress well, and those who fail to manage their emotions quickly sinks into different kind of stressful situation. So, this is what we learned about the 4 factors, and here is a recap. In this particular lecture, we talked about 4 factors that can have a role in stress tolerance. First one of them was coping mechanisms. The more coping mechanisms are available to a person, the better he or she is in handling stress. So, the stress tolerance would be more. Then the stress tolerance will also be affected by the kind of coping we are picking up. Whether I am interested in reappraising the stressor cognitively, or I prefer to work on my own emotional states, or I quickly realize that I am not alone able to handle it all. So, let us turn towards other people who I can count upon for help, for advice and for mentoring. Maybe I can ask for practical help as well. So, coping mechanism was one big factor, followed by the life experiences or the past experiences. Then we talked about demographic factors like age and gender, and finally we ended up talking about psychological factors, that is self-efficacy and emotion regulation abilities in moderating the ability of stress tolerance of individuals. As always, here is a list of recommended books and articles that can enhance your knowledge further. You can go through them if you want to know more about these topics. Thank you very much for your patient listening. Thank you.